Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now, let's give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Clint.
Thank you. My name is Clint Hodges. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm glad to be here. I'd like to thank Donna for asking me to be here tonight. I'd like to welcome you if you're new. I have some friends here. I told one of them, if you're going to stay, don't move your lips. I don't want to see all of that out there. Following my story, tell me when I'm getting off track. Some of the people in the room and I go back a ways. My friend Art is here, and Joan, who took a cake, and Michael. And I had a great day. I had a day that after a kind of a demanding week, I was, Linda and I had one of those just times this morning when we could sit and drink coffee and laugh and take care of one another. A sweet way to start today. And a guy came over to, and he read his inventory, and we had a few laughs around his personal humiliations. And it is such an amazing thing, that sense of identity, you know, that identification. He could not believe I had done the same things to my brother that he had done to his. And it's a colorful story. There is, and then I even got a little nap in. We had a chance to meet friends, Rob and Darren, for dinner, and then come on out here. And I'm very glad to be here. I'm very, very glad to be a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I did not have any idea when I got here that I wasn't going to drink anymore. It just, the idea that that would happen to me was astonishing, absolutely astonishing. I got sober over in Glendale. I live in West LA now, but in those days, a bail bondsman brought me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it's like, how the hell does that happen? You know, a bail bondsman. And I know how we met. That was not a surprise to me. But then he took me here, and then I stayed here, that I was living in God's grace and didn't even know it in those days, and wouldn't have spoken about my life in terms like that for anything. For anything. But to come here, and I didn't get sober the first time I got here. I got here in July, and it was the middle of August before I had my last drink. Sometimes in AA we talk about the fact that we have quit drinking. I don't think we quit. I don't think we quit. Not us. If we could quit, we wouldn't have come. We stopped drinking, but it isn't quitting. If you're new, and I welcome you if you're new, it might look to you like everybody in the room has some magical way of doing something you can't do. They can quit, and you can't quit. We can't quit, and we don't. There's a time when that obsession is taken out of our lives. And in that moment, I think my experience, as I look back on it, and it was murky at best, but the most consistent, the most consistent thing I can say about it is that I was overtaken. I was in full flight from reality, and I was overtaken by a power that I dimly perceived and was only afraid of. And that happens here to us, but I'm not sure that it's about quitting. I think Chris read chapter 5 tonight, those steps. If it was about quitting, wouldn't it be like step 1, quit? You know, you go, oh, shit, okay, fine, great. Yeah, come on, goddammit, knock it off, you know. Fuckers. And so it's like, quit implies choice. Quit implies power. I quit a lot. I am a quitter. I would quit a half a dozen times before noon. I would quit. This is the last half pint I'm ever going to need, you know. I would take that bottle of Dexamil and throw it away. No more, no more. But that doesn't quite last, because we can't. I'm not, I don't know about you, I'm not big enough for this world. Man, I just am not big enough for this world, and I would like to be big enough for this world. I mean, it seems like other people are. Why can't I be? What is the problem? How come I go to jail? Why did I get thrown out of dental school when a guy that drank worse than I did, from my estimation, was allowed to stay? How come they're picking on me when that guy at the end of the bar, he's the real problem? Why single me out for some kind of crap when the guy in the next cell is raising all that hell, you know? And it seems to me that I should be able to, because my intentions were pretty good. Because I at some point in my life, maybe 5 years old, I wanted to do it right, and I never stopped trying. If you're new here, we get it that you have been trying. We know. We know you wanted it to work out. We know that you wanted to be given whatever it is we're given at a young age and just kind of take it out into the world and make that happen. And we know that whatever you brought into your life, it was a mystery to you why it couldn't stay there, why it didn't make you happy, why this awful, awful sense of, Jesus, that isn't it either. I could have sworn if I got that, I wouldn't have to drink so much, and I'm drinking more than ever. And now how do I explain that to the people that busted their butt to make sure I got that, whatever it was? And it's a terribly frustrating and confusing life when we hurt people around us and confuse them and make them feel. I just and then we finally kind of get this crazy notion that booze is the problem, and we decide to quit, and that isn't it either, because we can't. If you can quit, you don't need to come here. It's not about that. In the book it says our hats are off to you, meaning, hey, go play golf. And so one day, after I got here, a guy asked me a very interesting question. He said, write down the 20 craziest things you ever did in your life. And it was such I was kind of liked the assignment, you know. I wanted to tell him about the getting thrown out of dental school. I wanted to tell him about that commander in the Marine Corps, my commanding officer, saying in a fitness report that about me, Lieutenant Hodges consistently fails to live up to the low standards he has set for himself. I wanted him to know about that 8.5 by 10 room or 11 room in the garage with a sticky linoleum floor and the clock that never stopped playing. I told him about waking up and seeing the rat over in the corner and thinking, that thing is going to kill me. And a couple hours later, at first light, I realized that the rat that had terrified me all night was a pair of socks laying over there in the corner. And I'd been held hostage by a pair of socks. That went on my list. The look on a child's face when you slap it is on that list. Came out of a blackout in a Skid Row bar in Portland on Burnside Street, sitting across from a little wooden table, and there was a woman there. I didn't know her name. I didn't know how long we'd been together. We seemed to be together. I mean, she kind of had her things there. I didn't know the nature of our relationship. She was a sleeper. I would have asked her. She had some chili on her face, so I knew we'd had dinner. Some delicate flower that I'd invited to dine that night. Man, we gave up a lot to come here, didn't we? And so that's on my list. On my list is the roll in that car and having it screech to a stop on its top about 3 feet away from the pumps in a gas station. All of the times in jail and all of the cowering in the drunk tank. After they clear the felony tank, they get us out there and you say guilty with an explanation, you know. Really? You want a jury trial? The guy arrested me the last time for drunk driving. On the report said, I discontinued the field sobriety test because the suspect was injuring himself. And you go, and I want a jury trial, right? I want justice. My sponsor said, skip it on the justice. Go for mercy maybe, but Jesus, you don't want any. You're getting justice. That's what that is. And so that's on my list, and I take the guy my list. Great list. And there's other stuff on it too, and he reads my list of the 20 craziest things I ever did in my life. He says, a lot of this is around booze. I said, yeah. Yeah. Kind of a clue there someplace, you know. Like I don't handle it that well. And I knew that. I mean, I knew that. I'd already been, are you an alcoholic? They said when I was taken to the meeting in Glendale, are you alcoholic? Yeah. Yeah. See, I'd gotten there and I was sober 3 weeks and I was drunk for 2 and I came back and I was so ashamed when I came back because I had let everybody down in AA by getting drunk again. The guy said, you didn't let us down. Getting drunk? No, that doesn't. He said, are you alcoholic? Yes. Yes, I've been an alcoholic about a month now. Something like that, you know. He let that go, but he said, you didn't let us down and you didn't surprise us. If you're alcoholic, you're going to drink. That'll happen to you. He said, if you want to surprise us, get a job. That'll surprise us. And then I'm at the list, and the guy says, you're alcoholic, huh? And I said, yeah. Powerless over alcohol, yeah. So when you start drinking, it's a mess, yeah. He said, it's interesting that you didn't even put down the craziest thing you ever did. What? What would that be? And he said, you did it all the time. What? And You did it coming from a dry brain. You did it with no booze in your system at all. The craziest thing you ever did. Given this evidence, the craziest thing you ever did, and you did it repeatedly, and you did it without any booze in your system, and not needing any booze physically, you decided to take another drink. You decided it was okay to drink again. That's our trap. That's our trap. What about that? We love to tell ourselves these stories about what happened when we drank, but Jesus, if we can just get a glimpse of the enormity, of the implications of what happens that takes me from a dry brain, from relative physical comfort, to a decision that I can drink again, when the evidence is overwhelming that I can't do that. Now, I think that just because the obsession is removed, I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I think that my mind somehow firms up in some way. Well, that's a trap. I mean, it's like in this book called Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new, get a copy of that book and read it. Read it with somebody, because it's an interesting study. You know, that whole chapter 3, more about alcoholism, is about that mind. About they give these great examples like the jaywalker. Gotta like that jaywalker, right? And how about Jim, the guy that drank himself out of a car dealership and couldn't quit? His last drunk is classic. He's like, in the book, he says, well, I showed up at the dealership. He said, I came to work on a Tuesday morning. And right away you like him because you know Monday was lost. Where were you Monday, Jim? He's so great. He's now working for the car dealership he used to own. So he says, I was mildly resentful that I had to work for a car dealership I used to own. Don't you love that understatement? I'll bet. Oh, you know. And then he says, I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Jim. Words with the boss are serious, Jim. I decided to drive out in the country where I might find a prospect for a new car. That's such wonderful stuff. That's where they are, Jim. Lining those country roads out there. God. Stopped in a roadhouse. Still looking for that customer. Had lunch. Had a sandwich and a glass of milk. God, there's nothing healthier, is there? I mean, the weekend and through Monday is gone, but now it's Tuesday. And he's got some solid food on his stomach. And God, there's just kind of a...
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
I could just be a regular guy. And he's doing pretty good. The food stayed down. Apparently, there's no report that it came back up. Which must have pleased him enormously. It would have me. Just stays. And so out of that kind of sense of what must have been pagan splendor for our friend Jim there, with that tuna fish staying down and the glass of milk down, he has a thought. And his thought is, given food and given milk, I don't think it could possibly hurt me if I poured a shot of whiskey into a glass of milk. Surely with that I could drink and get by with it. And he did it. And the next line is perfect. He says, the experiment worked so well, I tried it again. And you go, yes. Gotta like that Jim. And they fished him out of the hospital again because he was gone. But it's that wonderful mind. Paul's the accountant. End of a perfect day. Business went well. Everything's fine. He's in a nice hotel, plenty of money. Partner in a big 8 accounting firm or whatever they had in those days. Occurred to him to have a cocktail, and he made it for a couple of days, and then he was ripped again. Everything going for him. And so we have a mind. Did you ever really say, I'm not going to drink again, and then find yourself in the bar with a drink right there? And there's an instant when you say, I don't know how the hell that happened. And down it goes and we're gone. Or you stop for 2 and I don't know. And on it goes. We're powerless over it and we don't even want to say that. Oh, we say it, but we don't really. And it's a problem because even when that obsession to drink is removed and we're comfortably in our seat in Alcoholics Anonymous, we still have, according to this book called Alcoholics Anonymous, a mind that lacks proportion and can't think straight. Now, the obsession to drink is removed by a power greater than I am, and perhaps greater than you. God did that because I asked for that. We think, and I have thought this since I was 5 years old, that if I just bump along leading an exemplary life, that God will notice and He will help me. It isn't true. And we can't, and I thought it was because I couldn't lead an exemplary life long enough. I can do it maybe for 3 days as a kid, and then I have a dirty thought, and then you have to start all over again, and God's mad, and it's like, And it isn't true. None of that is true. Otherwise, we would not be sitting here. I was not leading an exemplary life on August 14th, 1966, but I begged, and I didn't know what I was begging for, and I haven't had a drink since then. And I don't know what your prayer sounded like. Alcoholic prayers sound profane much of the time. Remember Gail W. over in L.A. years ago talked about coming out of a blackout, saying the alcoholic's prayer. She's in her apartment, on the mantle over the fireplace, sitting there with her cat. Coming out of a blackout, there's a little cat food and vodka up there, a little something for everybody. I'm listening with rapt attention, man, because I knew she was a bad drinker, and here she is at a meeting. And she said the reason that they were up on the mantle, the reason she's saying the alcoholic's prayer, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me, is because there's 8 inches of water on the floor. That's why they're up there. Now, why is the water there? That's because she started to take a bath last Tuesday and the whole deal got away from her somehow, And I'm going, man, I like you, Gail. You are a pig. You wouldn't criticize my drinking, would you? Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? That's a prayer that we say. That's our desperate prayer. And it comes in a lot of different categories. You remember that guy that died on the beach at Anzio? They took the prayer out of his hand during that long, terrible night before he died on the beach during the Second World War. And he wrote, God, come now. Come yourself. Don't send Jesus. This is no place for children. And I'm going, God Almighty. Oh. I don't even know what my prayer was, but I said my prayer. I begged. For what? Sobriety? Hell no. No thank you. I've had that. It doesn't seem to be what I want. I can't stand it. So, the prayer was answered, and a bail bondsman out of nowhere brought me to you. And I've been here ever since. I've been here 29 years. I got here when I was 29, so I've been here half my life with you. And I call that guy every year on my birthday and thank him for that. thank Him for that. Because God loved me through that man. And the guy didn't even know that was what was happening. He just dropped me off at an AA meeting in a hot summer in 1966. And in 1967, I called him on my birthday and said, thank you. I said, this is Clint Hodges, Don. He said, Clint, yeah, where are you now? One of the things I think is so sweet about AA and what it does for people like me is that when he said, where are you? I knew where I was and I could tell him. I could tell him. That's a big deal. In our group, as a matter of fact, one of the promises is you'll come to know your full name and address. And some of us do. And so I call him. And so this August I'll call him again. This August I'll have 30 years. I used to say God willing. God's willing. He is willing. The only question is whether I'm willing. Tonight I'm willing. Yeah, you bet. Why? This is the sweetest deal I ever had. This is the sweetest deal I ever had. We are people that want power. We're power seekers. And I found the power. It isn't my power, but I found the power. And it has been a really interesting journey. You know what that word means? You look up the word journey in a dictionary. It means a day's trip. And it is that. It is a trip. It's today's trip. See, there are people in Malibu that aren't interested in power, I suppose. None of them in this room, but there are, But it's a terrible dilemma for lack of power is not a dilemma unless you really want power. And we've been looking under every rock all our lives to find the power we need to have a life. And we finally come in here and we say this prayer. Maybe just coming to the meeting constitutes the prayer. Out of our desperateness, we're like beggars. I heard a guy last summer say, if I have any message, it's the message of one beggar talking to another beggar about where the bread is. And the bread is here. This is it. This is it. I welcome you if you're new, because this is it. Your search is over. You will, if you leave here and drink again, you will come back. You may not know tonight that your search is over. I did not know. Who the hell would know? I didn't know on August 14th that I'd had my last drink, and it's just as well. Remember Chuck used to say, if I'd known that was going to be my last drink, I would have had two. And you'd have another speaker tonight. So what about that power? How are we going to tap into that? The key to it, in my experience here, is not so much going to a lot of meetings. That's unity, that's fellowship, that gives us relief. It's not so much even being of service, although that gives us some relief. And God knows we need relief. But the key to it seems to be the steps. Because when we can take those steps, some amazing stuff happens. And the bottom line of all of that process is we don't get relief so much as we get freedom. And there's a huge difference between relief and freedom. Freedom from that mind. We finally get that mind out of the loop. The mind lacks proportion and can't think straight according to that. Isn't that our experience? Did you ever have somebody cut you off on PCH going down here? I follow them for miles just to, ever in a phone conversation and they hung up? That person has to die. There is a mind that lacks proportion and can't think straight. But that way of processing information seems okay to my mind. It creates problems, and then I ask it to solve the problems that it just created. And wonder why the solutions are worse than the problems. That mind has to go, and it goes at step 7 when those old ideas are removed, if we have done the first 6 steps. That's an amazing, amazing amount of power to get a new mind. To look at step 4 and say, that's all about power. List my resentments. Why would I resent those people, institutions and principles? Because they look so powerful to me. I don't resent anybody that doesn't look powerful. Even a guy on the street that asked me for $1 has at that moment the power to make me feel guilty. And I don't like it. He has power. You bet. Why would they ask me to list my fears? Because that's the same thing. I'm not afraid of anything that doesn't look more powerful. Why? What about that sex inventory? How have I played that game? Don't they seem, if I have some sexual tension with another human being, isn't that person powerful in that sense? That yes, no, that gatekeeper kind of, like that's power. And how do I deal with that? What nastiness do I engage in? What manipulative snot-nosed stuff do I do in that regard, in the face of that kind of power? And we look at it. We look at this because we've already noticed that whatever's going on and however we're tapping into what we think is power doesn't work. And we've got to tap into real power. I heard, and so we finally get through 7 and we get on the road to 8 and 9 and go see people and make amends. Clean it up. Kneel at the graves we must kneel at. My mother's grave in Billings, I came out of there healed of so much after weeping at that grave all day, swearing I would never go back. I was 14 when they buried her, and I didn't cry then, I'll tell you. I was so angry at her, and I was given freedom by going to visit her. And my dad in Roanoke, who was in a grave, and my sister in Denver, and my brother in Portland, and men and women in town that I owed amends to. Some in this room. Freedom. Freedom. The lady that touched me about step 7. See, it's like I need a new mind. And you might as well know if you're new, there is not enough Prozac in town. We can't sprinkle enough Prozac on that old mind to make it new. We need a new mind, and the steps will take us there. And here is an interesting story that a lady told. She was 10 years sober when she decided that she wanted to get over her fear of heights, and she was 20 years sober when she was telling this story. And she's at the podium. Her name is Joyce. She lives in Reno. And she told a story about wanting to get over her fear of heights. And so she decided to take skydiving lessons. I wouldn't have done that, but she did that. And she got the lessons out of the way, and the day came she's supposed to solo out of an airplane. And out there in the drop zone on this exciting day when she's going to get over her fear of heights is her husband, her kids, the women she sponsored, her ex-husbands out there. Everybody's in the drop zone. And she came out of the plane and the chute was wrong, and she dropped and hit that deck a lot faster than she was supposed to go. And of course, you got that she survived it because she's up there telling the story, but she did say that she spent the next 18 months in the hospital learning how to urinate again. So like she kind of, took the hit, and her husband left, but her ex-husband, who was in AA, returned into her life as a friend, and the two of them were talking one day in the hospital, and he said to her, Joyce, how come you did that? And she said, what? He said, how come, what was all of that skydiving thing? And she said, I just want to get over my fear of heights. And he started to laugh, which was annoying to say the least. And she said, what are you laughing about? He said, you want to get over your fear of heights, all you had to do was humbly ask. And I'm like, God Almighty, there's a lot of power here. It isn't my power, but it's all the power I ever need. The power, as it turns out, is called love. It's love. If you're new here, we're glad you're here. We love you. And there's a lot of healing around that. It isn't your healing, it's our healing. This is a very weird kind of a selfish thing. We're glad you're here so we can love you. Or said a little bit more accurately, since God is love and God works through people, we're glad you're here so God can love you through us. And it's our healing. Why? Because all that love is coming through. It's the love you give, not the love you get, that heals you. And the hot thing about AA is that if you stick around, some guy newer than you will come and sit down beside you. Some woman with less time than you will come and sit beside you. You'll find yourself loving that person. Your own healing will begin. And for more than 60 years now, we've called that Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.